we get started with today's video, I want to show you my plant. Whoa, they're so cool. She's massive. Okay. Hi, puppers. Let's grab this. Let's grab you.
Are we being recorded?
Yes. Usually I don't do sit down chatty ones unless I'm doing like my story. Somebody asked for me to talk about toxic positivity, and I thought it was a good opportunity for Logan to also come in and talk about it because we both did it. And he has a different perspective from a cancer patient's point of view. He went through his own thing. It's just different.
Yep.
I'm gonna start with the definition of toxic positivity, and I have it written down, and I have a lot of other notes, so if I'm looking down, that's what I'm looking at. Toxic positivity is the push for a mental state in which we only experience and show positive emotions. Is a tendency to react to others' suffering and struggles with reductive statements of positivity. So like, just be positive, or
Everything's gonna be fine.
yeah,
Don't worry about it.
yeah.
Things will work out. It's not that bad.
At least you're not so and so. At least it's not this.
At least it's not raining.
Yeah, like stuff like that. That's the toxic positivity. You're just shutting down someone's emotion to whatever they're talking about. So when I was diagnosed in 2018, the first time, yeah, 4 years ago, I'm just gonna speak for myself. After I had gotten through the
shock of everything.
Yeah, the shock of everything, I then decided that I wanted to choose happiness. Like, I wanted to choose happiness in this trial and to look for the blessing, whatever to come from this trial. Which, I agree that that is a great way to go through a trial, and to always be actively searching for what you can learn from the trial, or what God wants you to see out of this trial, or who He's trying to shape you into because of this trial. However, so unhealthy to just be like stuffing down the so-called bad emotions, which are things like stress, anger, sadness, grief, any of those type of bad emotions. It's horrible.
Yeah. It's not like those emotions are bad. They're just uncomfortable. And so when we feel those emotions, we try to not feel them. And that's where I think toxic positivity comes from. Whether that's coming from us or from someone else just trying to help. If you don't let yourself feel those emotions, like Kiera said, you're just stuffing them down.
Yeah.
Which is unhealthy.
Yeah. And emotions are just data. Like, that's it. They just help you and your body know what's going on around you, if you're safe in that environment, because your body doesn't know. Like, your physical body does not know if you're sitting in a restaurant or if you're sitting in a chemo chair. It doesn't know the difference. All it knows is triggers, like when the brain processes a trigger from the eyes or a smell or just anything like that, it will then release an emotion. But that doesn't mean that you have to react on the emotion. So they're all just neutral, and they all have like a purpose, and they all play a part in your body trying to protect you.
Yeah, because if you're, let's say, someone's about to bug you, your body's not going to know what's going on if your brain doesn't tell it by releasing chemicals, which will then activate the fight or flight. Things like that.
They're just all data. So there's no bad emotions. That's why I keep using quotations.
Shame is a bad emotion. I think it's like the only one bad emotion, because it's just self-deprecating. It's not a productive emotion. That's my take on it. I'm speaking for myself.
Every time I do this, it's because there's no good or bad in my mind, and his mind too, except for with shame.
Which honestly takes a lot of getting used to.
Well, we did this even before cancer. Always trying to be positive about things.
Yeah, well, that's true.
It's just got really bad during cancer.
Yeah, and like Kira said, it's not that her choosing happiness while she was going through treatments was a bad thing. What was bad was that she didn't allow herself to feel all those emotions, to feel all the grief, the fear, the anxiety, the anger. She would just bottle that up. I really only remember you like breaking down to me a couple of times. And I think most of that was before you chose happiness. Like you would say things were hard, but you wouldn't open up about it. And honestly, that made it a lot harder on me as well, because I didn't know how to help her. I didn't know what she needed help with. Also, her not opening up, and also me not opening up to her about what I was going through because I was trying to protect her. They were both detrimental to our relationship because we were missing out on a chance to bond together and to grow over what we were both experiencing. It's like a giant elephant in the room that neither one of us wanted to admit was there. It's like, okay, we're going through treatments. All this really sucks, but we're going to pretend it's not here, like it's not happening. We'll just pretend things are good and watch TV.
I don't think it's bad sometimes to sit in that survival mode. I think it's okay to do that for a season because you're just trying to survive in that season, and that's all you're trying to do. I did not want to die. That's what I was trying to do. But I wish someone had suggested a therapist to me way before, like honestly as soon as I got diagnosed, just so I could release some of the pain that was going on. It would have been just a little bit easier on me with every treatment or with every diagnosis.
It might not be safe for you to come out of the survival mode.
Yeah.
So it all just depends on what's going on.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
at some point, you do need to process it.
Or you really are going to explode. Or, there's so many studies on, like, when you bottle up emotions and you don't process things, it causes a lot of illness. And I've always wondered if, because I've never processed my sexual assault back in high school, if that played a part onto me getting cancer, which no one can prove that. It obviously didn't help anything.
Yep, I guarantee it didn't help the matter.
Yeah, it's gonna come out somehow, whether it comes out and you're able to process it and it's healthy, or it's gonna come out in other ways and your body's it keeps a score. Your body keeps a score. Like, it's gonna tell you that something's wrong, you getting sick all the time, or you're drained all the time. Anxiety is your body telling you something. Depression is your body telling you something. It's always going to try and tell you, we need help. We need someone to help us with this thing.
On my side of things, like, I would go to work and I would just play a song called Paralyzed on repeat on my headphones, and I would just like sit there and stare at the computer screen and like I couldn't do anything. It's like I was paralyzed, like I could not function. But when I got home, I knew Kiara needed me. I knew she needed someone to be strong and to help protect her and take care of her. So I didn't open up to her about that, like the pain that I was in, because in my mind I thought that's like what she needed was someone to be strong for her, since she couldn't be strong. When actually you could be strong, like you wanted to be there for me too, because you could see that I was going through things. But I just didn't open up to her about that, and goes back to us missing out on those opportunities to connect and be there for each other. But yeah, like when Kira was up in her bedroom towards the end of her treatments, like she'd be in bed for 3, 4, 5 days straight and only come out like a handful of times. Like I'd wake up in the morning, she'd be asleep. Middle of the day, she'd eat like a piece of toast with some butter on it, and that was about it for the whole day. But periodically throughout the day, I'd go upstairs and crack open the bedroom door and just make sure she was still breathing. And then I'd go down on the couch and cry and hold our dog. And I would do that for as long as she was in the bed. And I never told her about that until like a couple years after treatments, right?
Yeah, just recently.
Yeah, like I was in so much pain, but I didn't tell anyone. People would call and be like, hey, like ask how things were going. Like, oh, it's fine. Like, and I'd just tell them how Kiara was doing. I'd never talk about me, which is another thing we could do a video on. Caretakers need help too.
Yeah.
But
If you want us to make that video, comment below.
I never opened up to anyone about that. You know, it's caused a lot of pain on my side, a lot longer than it needed to, just because I didn't want to open up, because I wanted to be the strong person for Kira, which you can be strong and have emotions too.
Susan David. She's a Harvard psychologist. She goes over emotions a lot. I'll leave a podcast link down below to one that she did with Brene Brown, talking about emotions and the good and bad and whatever. But she did a study with like 70,000 plus people. In that study, she found that 1/3 of them judged themselves for having bad emotions. So those were like the grief, anger, sadness, etc. And then they would actively try to push those to the side.
You can't be in survival mode forever.
No, you can't.
Can I say something on that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Pushing it to the side.
No, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We can take this part out. I got it. Now you can put part of that back in. It's not wrong to have hard emotions or uncomfortable emotions. You're human. You're going to have them. You're going to experience those things, regardless of how perfect your life is or not, which nobody has a perfect life. They just make it seem like that. Jesus did not have he was crucified. How was his life perfect? That sounds like a pretty way to go.
No, it was perfect because it was part of the plan.
It was, the plan's perfect. Sure. I think about Jesus. Yeah, it's not bad to feel those emotions. You're human. It's gonna happen. How long you stay in that emotion, or how long it takes you to process through it, or that just takes experience, more practice, like purposeful practice on how to work through those things.
Like I just recently, like over the past few months, learned how to be angry and then to process it, and then it leaves me. I used to, and my parents can vouch for this, I would sit in the anger emotion for like days or weeks.
And me, I would just never feel things. I'd just pretend like it was fine.
Come back in frame.
I would just pretend like it was fine.
And just be like the chill, easygoing dude.
I'm good.
But
it's all good.
Inside, we were both dying.
Yep.
In our own ways. Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about when either you're having the toxic positivity thoughts, like, oh, I just need to be positive, or
I just need to get over it.
yeah, that's a big one. I just need to get over it. It's not that bad, whatever. Okay, say you're a mom or a parent, a dad, whatever, and your 2-year-old is running around a corner and the kid stubs his toe. We all know how bad that hurts. Imagine you as a mom going up to the child and being like, that's not the worst pain. There's kids who break their arm, kids who don't get food. No, right, for that 2-year-old, up until that moment of his life, his or her life, they have not felt pain like that ever before in their whole life. So for that child, that moment is the hardest thing they've ever experienced. So that is their hardest hard. So when you're thinking about whatever your trial is, that is your hardest hard. Whether you just lost someone, maybe you're struggling with depression, maybe you have an addiction, that is your hardest hard moment. So it may not be my story where I get cancer twice. There's people who like have terminal illnesses. Like, yes, that's their hardest hard because they have a terminal illness. I have never experienced that, but I understand what it feels like to have the hardest moment of your life and how difficult that is. When I'm empathizing with other people, I remember, okay, this is really hard for them. Whatever the situation is, how can I help them feel supported through that hardest moment in their life? So there's no comparison game. There's no, this trial is harder than this trial. That may be your hardest point of your life. Just remember that when you start talking toxic positivity things to yourself, and especially when you start talking to others, because you don't want to smash their feelings down, because then they'll never go get help. They'll never realize that their emotions are valid and that it's okay to have emotions. So one example is someone's expressing a really hard thing in their life to you, saying like, oh my gosh, our second vehicle got hit last night. I don't know what we're gonna do. it's stressful because we only have one vehicle, but there's two of us, we have places to go, and ... And you say,
oh man, just be positive, it'll all work out, it'll be fine.
no. A better way to come at a situation like that where someone's expressing emotions like that is by saying something along the lines of, that sounds so hard, I am so sorry, what kind of support do you need today? So coming out someone expressing emotions, never using an I statement. Gear everything towards them. What kind of support do you need?
And I also think, like, because I know people offered me help when Kara was going through treatments, and a lot, like, I'm not going to tell somebody I need help. I would accept help if people offered, like, hey, can I do this specific thing for you? Hey, can I bring over a meal for you guys tonight? I would accept that. Would I ask for it? No, probably not. But going along the lines of what Kira was saying, make it about them. What support do they need? If you ask what help they need and they're like, I can't really think of anything right now, we're good. Be like, okay, well, I'm more than happy to bring over dinner or something like that. I could do that on the weekend. Would that be helpful? Yeah, actually that would. Or whatever the situation is. You know, offering a specific thing to help, though, can show people that you're there to support them and what they're going through. And you're not trying to take away from what they're going through.
Yeah, and I think to add on that, if I were going to like a cancer patient or someone in need, I would say, do you need food on Tuesday night? Something about being very specific on the day and what meal it is, like dinner or whatever, is it feels very supportive as the patient or as the person receiving support, because you hear, I am going to do this on this day unless you tell me otherwise. I can see that you need help, so I have chosen a specific thing. Does this help you? It makes it all about you, and it shows like action already. Like, I have actively chosen Tuesday or Thursday, whatever I said, to give you a meal. So they very actively started to like help you. And I just think that's a very different feeling.
Yeah, and from there it opens up that person that you're offering help to open up emotionally and be vulnerable with you, because they know they can trust you and that you're there to support them.
And like count on you. Another thing is a situation where someone's just being super negative, and that's their body is trying to release, or their minds are trying to release things that are happening to them, and they're trying to process them. Yeah, they might not be doing it in the healthiest way, or like when you think of a kid, right? They're like angry and yelling and whatever, but that's because they're trying to process. They just haven't learned how to. And maybe you're talking to an adult, and I can think of many adults that
don't know how to process emotions.
Yeah. You can say something like, wow, it's really normal to be angry in that situation. Do you want to tell me more about that? That is so validating to hear, yes, I can be angry. It's okay to be angry. And they're willing to like listen and let me try to process this. And maybe if you don't want to listen to them, you could say something like, what kind of support do you need today? And then you could start rattling off other sources, right? If you don't want to be that source. You could say, is there a therapist we can try and find you? Or
support groups?
Yeah, is there a support group somewhere that can help? Do you have a parent or something that you're close with, a sibling? Who do you trust to hold this situation and help you with this? You can use pretty much the same thing for when people say, oh, but look for the good and do this and that. See the better, see the joy. Just tell them that emotion is valid and that they're okay to have that emotion. It is physically and mentally 100% impossible to be happy all of the time. There's no way. You cannot do it. So you're either faking it, or you're in survival mode and just like trying to live or whatever. One of the two. It is impossible to have that emotion all the time. Plus, if you're faking that emotion all the time, you will never be able to experience true happiness because you faked it. So whenever...
And you have so much other crap weighing you down.
Yeah, because you're not processing it. So something happy comes along, and you can't actually feel it. So I think that's it. Hi, Rosie.
Hi.
That's it for today. Sorry it's kind of a little bit longer than what I thought, but we just think it's really important because it's super detrimental to health and relationships to children. It's so horrible on children. Like, creates trauma down the line, and we've both done work around that. Anything else?
No, I'm Gucci.
No? Okay. Okay, well, with that, if you guys have any other requests that you would like us to talk about or questions you have for us, be sure to leave it in a comment down below. I'll always try and make sure that we get to those at some point. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, here it is. And you can follow me there because I give lots of tips and help for both caregivers and for patients, and like mental health things too. I try to help with those as well. Say goodbye. Like and subscribe my mommy's video. Bye. See you next week.
Go get 'em.